7 years ago, I left my six-figure tech sales job, packed 2 suitcases, left it all to move to Thailand to travel the world and build an online business. Now, here we are 7 years later. I'm hanging out with you here in Nha Trang in Vietnam. Basically, permanently moved my life in Asia and built this personal brand and online business from zero, and I actually made it happen. So in this video, I kind of want to share with you a little bit about my thought process in even leaving a six-figure tech sales job to move to Asia, how I actually pulled it off, especially when it comes to building a personal brand and selling, coaching, consulting, and online courses. Hopefully, if you do watch this video all the way through the end, it inspires you to show you what's possible. The world is getting bigger. The internet is changing everything and how we do business on a day-to-day basis. And so, life was not meant to be lived in a cubicle in one location, right? And so, so let's go ahead and dive into it. Now, some of you guys have been watching my content for a while, and you've noticed that on my main channel, it's more about like how-to content, right? Very tutorial kind of based, and I share my story here and there. But for this video and this particular new channel that we're doing, I kind of want to just share with you my raw thoughts, my philosophy, my way of just being, and hopefully you get a better inside look of how I do things, and show you a different side of me, right? So subscribe if you haven't already. We're going to be dropping a lot of new content for you guys, assuming you guys like this, right? So let's start things off of like, why even live abroad? Because I'm from the US, right? And I'm living in Vietnam now, and in the past my parents used to live in Vietnam, but they moved to the US after the war and stuff like that in Vietnam. If you didn't know, there was like a Vietnam War and US was involved, right? I grew up as first gen I guess like Asian American in California. So why leave all that? Why leave a six-figure tech sales job? Now, I had always wanted to live in Asia, and I got my first taste of it when I was studying abroad in Hong Kong, during my time when I was at USC for my undergrad, right? And when I lived in Asia, at the time I was never planning to live there. It was just kind of like a fantasy. It's like something different, be in a different environment, study abroad. And when I was in Asia, I just kind of realized that I had this moment where I prefer living in Asia, and at the time it was Hong Kong, now it's Vietnam. But I just, like the people, I fit in better. I just like the day-to-day living and all that kind of stuff. So after that experience studying abroad, I had always thought one day I would need to figure out how am I gonna move my ass over to Asia, right? But that was kind of like on the back of my mind. So after I graduated from USC for business, I actually tried to start a business. So this actually is where everything begins. I tried to start a business. I had a lot of confidence in myself, but after a couple months, after graduating and trying different things, nothing was really working, and I wasn't making any money. After a couple months, I thought about why am I failing? And it was because I didn't know how to sell. And so I thought, okay, well, I always want to be an entrepreneur, but I need to know how to sell. What do I need to do to actually do it? And my friend at the time was working at Oracle. I had a couple of friends that worked there, and I asked them so what's the experience there? I heard they had a good sales program, and they did. And so they told me about it. They told me it was good. And so I applied to Oracle, got a job, and I started working there, right? And I had only got a job at Oracle to learn how to sell. That was my goal. I wasn't really thinking of spending a long time there. I wanted that skill set, right? And so when I was in Silicon Valley, basically did really well at Oracle, ended up in the top 1% of my class, meaning that they hired a bunch of people. It's like 200 of us. And then in terms of how much money we're taking home, I basically ended up in the top 1%, right? And then I leveraged that to get another job at a high growth startup. And then, significantly increased my base salary, significantly increased my on-target earnings. And I was living pretty good. I had a nice apartment in San Francisco. I was making six figures, and life was all right. But even though I was making decent money and climbing up the ladders in this whole tech world, I felt like that wasn't really the route for me. It kind of felt like, I was selling technology, and it was good because I was learning the skill sets of cold email, lead gen, and sales, right? But I wasn't that passionate about selling the software that I was selling, and it kind of just felt like, people were doing it for money, which they are, right? It's not like people wake up thinking, oh my God, I want to sell an API today. It's just part of the job. And so once I learned how to sell and I saved enough money to feel comfortable, I was like, okay, I think now is the time to start my own business, because I know how to generate leads, I know how to sell, and and I have enough savings to try something out for at least a year, right? And so basically I put in my leave of absence, and I was basically working in sales for 1 year and 8 months total. And then that was at the point where I felt comfortable to leave. And so basically, I packed my stuff, and I had a friend who was living in Chiang Mai in Thailand at the time, and I moved over there to begin my online business journey, right? So in the beginning, I tried a lot of different ideas, like faceless Instagram accounts, and I don't know, just a bunch of random stuff, and basically nothing was really working, right? But I had fun though, because every day I would wake up in Thailand, and I would be like, like I was living in a bedroom that was like $120 a month, and for context, I was paying like 2.4K a month in San Francisco, so it was a big difference in jump, right? In lifestyle, because I wasn't making income, right? So I basically just every day woke up, got a cappuccino at a cafe, went to a co-working space and started grinding, trying to figure out like how am I going to figure out this online business stuff. And a lot of things were not working. And then I was running out of money. I had a girlfriend at the time that was Thai, then we broke up, and then my life was crashing down. And then so after like 6 months of trying things out and not making any money, I felt like it was enough. I was ready to go back home to California. And it's not that I didn't like living in Thailand, but I just kind of got sick of failing. So I basically moved back in with my parents, tried more different ideas. I tried like an ice cream matcha shop. I tried making apps in the app store, and everything literally, like barely worked, or was just like losing me money. And especially after that matcha ice cream shop I did, I'll put up some screenshots so you guys kind of see what it was. That was when I realized like, doing anything physical in the real world, like opening a store or a pop-up shop, it just was not for me, because profit margin's low, time and energy is a lot, reward is very low, and you have to physically be there. And so I still kind of wanted to live in Asia, but I wanted to make money. That was the thing, right? And I was like, even if I succeed in this matcha ice cream shop, I have to still manage the stores, and it's like, I don't even want to be here. So there was a point where I basically got down to my last like $200. I used up all my savings living in my parents' home. And I was like, okay, in a month I'm going to run out of money basically. And I didn't want to ask for my parents for money. So either I had to get a job, which is not bad, right? It's a 6-figure tech sales job, or I figured this out. And so there was this turning moment where I was looking at the ceiling in my home, and I was like, couldn't sleep, very stressed. And I thought to myself, okay, what can I do that will actually make money like tomorrow? Because I cannot like delay this anymore, right? And the idea came to me of creating online courses, because I had like learned about this online, took in some courses about it, never really like truly succeeded with it. But I felt like I've never really done it for, teaching my sales skills. It's like cold emails, selling on the phone, selling in person, using LinkedIn, right? And I had those skills because I learned it at my job. And so I was like, okay, you know what? Like, I didn't really want to teach sales at the time. It was just more like the opportunity that I had, and it was a skill I had. So I said, okay, I'm just going to try to make these sales courses, and because I need to make money, And so my platform of choice at the time was Udemy. And first one was a lead generation course on how to write cold emails. Basically put that together in like 3 weeks, from writing the content, filming it, editing it myself, putting it up, doing SEO for it. And dude, the first month, I think I made like almost like $1,000 on that course. So I was like, whoa, that's crazy. This is working. So I made another course on sales skills, and then it made another $1,000. And then I made another course on sales and made another 1,000. And so basically when I got to $4,000 a month doing this, I was like, you know what? I don't want to live in America anymore. Peace out, California. I'm moving back to Vietnam, right? So I had lived a little bit like a month in Vietnam during my sabbatical, you could call it, right? When I was like doing the whole digital nomad thing. And Vietnam felt like the place for me because, like when I'm in Thailand, I'm always going to be a foreigner because I'm not Thai. But because my parents aren't from Vietnam, I kind of speak the language a little bit, like I am considered one of them, right? So that was a big factor of me deciding to live in Vietnam. You go to where you're treated the best and what fits you, right? So some other people, maybe they might hang out in Brazil or Spain or somewhere in Europe, right? It really just depends on who you are and what connects with you the most. So I wouldn't say Vietnam is for everybody. It's for some people, and it definitely has some advantages to it, right? Like cost of living is a lot cheaper. The people are great. Dating is even really good too, if you're into that. So, like you have to find the reasons for why you want to be there, right? And for me, it was a good home base. Now, basically, what really popped everything off was those Udemy courses that allowed me to make an income online, right? And this was where I realized the idea of you can package what's in your head, and especially skills that you learned or want to learn, right? Because you can learn something, make a course about it, and sell the information, right? Because like you don't have to be an expert today. You can be an expert tomorrow and like learn that skill. And yeah, you can make a lot of money this way, right? So I think from there, once I kind of figured out Udemy and I was making a pretty good income, like basically like 6 figures on Udemy a year, right? I was like, okay, but I don't want to be a Udemy instructor. So I basically moved over to YouTube and started making YouTube content. And it took like maybe like 6 months to a year to really get the ball rolling, to get like more consistent views. Like first video, even though I had a Udemy following, they did not translate to YouTube. So first video, you know, like 30 views, second video, 50 views, third video, 30 views. And that just kept going on and on for months until the algorithm eventually picked me up. And then I started getting more like thousands of views, right? So it took a while in order to get there. But because I had an income source from Udemy, which was my, you know, basic living, right? And YouTube was like bonus, and as that started building up, they both combined into making like a pretty good living. But yeah, that's basically how I like got started with YouTube, right? Now, I basically just snowballed that into something bigger and bigger and bigger, selling more courses, getting more views, making money from brand deals, ad revenue even, right? I even started a second YouTube channel in crypto and in NFTs and became one of the top like creators in that space as well. And, you know, did a lot of consulting work with a lot of brands with that following. So, you know, over the last 7 years, that's why I really learned the power of really personal branding. Because if you think about how I've been able to achieve all of this, I'm doing it on the back of building a personal brand, whether I realized it or not. And that was creating content, getting people to know who I was, and somehow finding a way to monetize, whether it's through a course or through one-on-one coaching or through going into a business and helping them generate more sales. I mean, I'm really just selling my knowledge and my advice, right? At the end of the day, whether it's packaged into a digital product or a digital service, which I can do from anywhere in the world, right? No one has ever asked me to, or they asked me, but I've never done it. You know, like I'm not going into their office to train their team. I'm not going anywhere. I can do this online on Google Meets, you know? And so that's the beauty of the internet these days. If you have a skill or a skill you want to learn, because I've done this twice, right? The first is when I took the skill I learned from my tech sales job and put it online. At the time, it was very novel because there weren't many people like me who are young and like understood tech sales, especially at high velocities, that were making content online in general. Like 5 years ago, no one was making that kind of content on YouTube. So that's part of the reason why I blew up. I found the opportunity that basically a gap in the market, right? And then for the whole crypto and NFT side, I wasn't an expert in crypto, to be honest, right? In NFTs, it's like I became an expert by talking about the news every day and not trying to be like, oh, I know everything, but instead just like sharing my opinion, sharing if I think something is cool or not, right? And I wouldn't even tell people to buy stuff. It was just like literally my opinion and my perspective, and people really like that. So over doing it for like 3 months, I was considered an expert because people really respected my opinion, just because of me giving my analysis in the market. So when you're thinking about like starting your personal brand, you should think about like, are you an expert at that thing? If not, can you become an expert in a short period of time? Because it literally took me 6 months to become a perceived expert, to charge, you know, tens of thousands of dollars for consulting, right? And that's from a skill I literally just picked up like in 6 months. So, and then I made quite a bit of money in crypto from a lot of consulting, right? Like 6 figures basically. And I feel like anyone can really do it, you know, like, something I've been realizing about this whole personal brand thing is a couple things. First, I think everyone should build their personal brand no matter what business they start, because that's the way the world is moving. Whether you do crypto, sales, HR consulting, or whatever it is, if people don't know who you are, how are they going to buy from you, right? And so that's like the ultimate leverage. Now, I used to feel that when you're building a personal brand online, it kind of felt like you're like a monkey on camera, you know, you're just here to entertain. But I changed my perspective on that a lot over the past couple of years, or really over the last 2, where, you know, I had always thought like, oh, it's better to build a business with your face not attached to it, because like, you know, what if like, you know, you get canceled or whatever, right? Does that mean your career's over? And so that had always like, you know, made personal branding unattractive. But then nowadays I just realized, you know, it's very easy to not get canceled. You just don't do anything crazy, and even if people try to cancel you, there's always a way to control the PR to stay in the game, right? And so the fear of being canceled is just gone for me now. The second is like, people buy from people these days, right? And so, you know, having a personal brand is the ultimate hack. It's like people want to work with you, whether it's from like a partnership perspective, employee perspective, or even a client perspective, because they know who you are. So instead of, you know, leaning away from it, lean into it. And I've realized that if I use my personal brand to jumpstart businesses, and then the business itself can maybe one day eventually not rely on my personal brand, but to get the ball rolling, using a personal brand is like one of the most effective things. Like look at like Donald Trump is like the ultimate personal brand right now, and he's the president of the United States, right? And so yeah, it's powerful to have a personal brand at this day and age. Now, if I were to start a personal brand nowadays, I would do it a little bit differently than what I've done in the past, because I started doing YouTube like 5 years ago, right? And really my whole online career 7 years ago, and I've seen the changes that the whole internet landscape has changed a lot. And so here's what I would do now if I was getting started, right? The first thing is I would definitely use YouTube for sure right off the bat, because YouTube, I've tried, I have Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube. And YouTube by far is where I am able to build the deepest connection with my audience, because if you're watching this video and you even watch this far, it's like you're watching me for quite a long period of time, right? And you're getting to know me as a real human being. And by watching these videos, maybe one day, you're gonna book a call with my team and we're gonna like sell you something, right? To help you out, in a positive way. And YouTube is where you really build that depth. And other platforms like LinkedIn, I have like 30,000 followers on LinkedIn. It's really good for that short form kind of content. And also really good for getting them in the DMs to start conversations to eventually book a call. But, if I message someone on LinkedIn and they're deciding to book a call with me, they're going to go to my YouTube. It's like YouTube is like the go-to place where people are going to search you up. So you might as well control your narrative and what people, think about you, see how they see you and all that kind of stuff. So YouTube is the most powerful for sure, right? So I would get started on YouTube. Now, how I would actually make money right away is, in the beginning, it's not actually about creating content. That's where most people make the mistake. They think that if they make content, people will watch and people will buy, but that's not the case. The easiest way to get started in like 2025, which is when I'm making this video, right, is creating an offer first. So an offer is really just understanding two things. What are you selling and who are you selling to? So you want to start with this in mind first, so that when you know what you're selling, who is it that you want to attract, the content becomes much easier because you're making it for a specific type of person. I think most people make the mistake of like randomly creating content and just they don't get any views, and even if they get views, they don't make money because they don't have like a clear goal. So like, I help a lot of people with this through the Founder X program, which is where I basically teach people how to build personal brands and make money doing it. And the first thing I do is help them with their offer. So what I do is like I sit down with my clients and I say, okay, like what are your skills? What are your interests? Like, what do you actually want to do? How do you see your life like 5 to 10 years from now? And then we try to match that with what's already making money in the market, because you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? And a lot of times you can look at what exists in the market, what are other people selling, tweak it for your specific interest and sell that. Because when you're selling something that already exists, the chances of you selling is just so much higher. Like, you don't have to be original, right? There's only so many ways to do lead generation. There's only so many ways to like create a YouTube channel if you're selling that kind of service, right? So yeah, don't think you need to reinvent the wheel, not in the beginning at least. So once you have your offer in mind and you kind of know who your target demographic is, then you create content for those type of people. So for this video, for example, a lot of the people that watch are either people that probably have a 9-to-5 job, they have skills, maybe they're making a high income, but they want to like do something of their own, but they just don't know how to get started, and they don't know how like social media and the internet works that well. And so part of the reason why you're probably watching this is because you fall into that camp and you want to learn, right? Other people who watch are people that maybe already started their business, but they're relying on referrals. They don't know how to build a social media following. They're not really doing YouTube that well. And that's why they want to learn. They want to see how I do it, right? And so because I know this, the type of content I create and the stories that I tell and the things that I teach will resonate deeper with that target demographic. And because I know what I'm selling as well, which is basically Founder X, right? Which is a program that teaches people how to build their personal brands and monetize using their skills, knowledge, and experiences, and really selling digital products and services, coaching, things of that nature, right? I know who I'm speaking to. And so it's going to resonate with a certain type of person. And one day, maybe you want to buy something from me. And so every video I make, it has that intent where, yes, of course, I'm providing value, but at the same time, I'm also selling in a sense, because I want you to kind of understand my philosophy and my way of doing things. And hopefully you get bought in enough to want to speak with my team to see if it's a good fit. And so even if you're starting out and you start from 0 subscribers, if you have an offer in mind, you can start making YouTube content, literally just like putting a camera on the balcony and starting to talk about like the things that you've done, how you help people. And, people are going to resonate with it, and you don't need a lot of views. I've had people that literally get, just thousands of views on their content, and they're still able to make like 6 figures doing it because they're speaking to a certain type of demographic. Like there are people literally making 20K a month with barely any followers, but because they understand their market really well, they're charging thousands of dollars for coaching or their info product or whatever program that they have, and they're providing real value into the world. And it really just works like that. It's that simple. You don't need 300,000 followers like I have on YouTube. Just a couple thousand will get you very far, right? In the right niche, right? And then over time, as you like dominate your niche, then you start niching up and you start growing and hitting more of a mainstream market. But in the beginning, you don't really need to do that. You just need your first couple clients, right? And a lot of times, in order to like buy your freedom and have the ability to travel, work where you want to do these kinds of things, it doesn't take that much. Because for me, when I started on Udemy, $4,000 a month was the number that allowed me to move to Vietnam and just like live my life and do whatever I wanted to do, because that would cost your rent, your cost of living, and you have extra money to have fun. And you're probably not saving a lot, but you're buying yourself time in order to learn how to develop more high income skills. Because the way I think about it is, of course, saving and investing is really great and it compounds for sure. But I think the thing that will really make people the most money in general, and it's what I apply to my life, is becoming the person that has the high income skills to just make a ton of money every year and continuing to increase that income, right? So if you think about it, if you develop the right skills over a period of time, you could probably make more money in 1 year than you have your entire life, depending on what you learned, right? So that's the mindset I apply in my life. Like, let's say for this year or next year, right? Most likely what's going to happen is I'm going to make more money this year than I will in my entire life combined. And why is that? It's because of the skills and the person I've become and the people that I've met in my network. It's about becoming that guy so that even if everything collapses and you lose everything, you will make it all back because you have that skill. That's how I felt when I started learning sales. Once I knew how to sell, I can always get a 6-figure tech sales job because I know how to sell, and people are always going to hire good salespeople, right? So once you learn that from a business perspective, even if I lost everything, I'll pick up a camera, I know how to edit, I can talk, and I can sell. So you just sell some kind of program, some kind of coaching. It's because I have the knowledge in my head, and that knowledge is valuable to certain people out there in the world, right? And so that's kind of how I approach this whole like info product world. And the last thing I want to cover is the idea of imposter syndrome. Because a lot of people, they feel like, I don't have that many years of experience. Why would anybody listen to me? And imposter syndrome, I've learned, is just in your head. You will always have people that will say negative things about you. So even for me, I have 3,000 YouTube subscribers now, and even now and then I get negative comments, right? I would say 99% of people really like the content and they enjoy it, right? Thumbs up. But there's always going to be that one, or not even 1%, it's less than 1%, that will say something negative. They'll be like, Patrick his cold call techniques don't work, or like, that's a horrible like cold email, right? Well, first of all, it does work because I've done it myself and I taught it to other people and they have made money doing it. So you cannot say it doesn't work, because if one person has used the strategies and it worked for them, by fact, it works. It may not work for you because of your skill sets and your personality, and maybe you just don't sound good on the phone. But it has worked for me and it has worked for other people. So right off the bat, you can dispel any negativity by saying like, look, like, hey, sorry it didn't work for you, but it works for all these other people, right? But let's say, okay, that's if you have a skill and it worked and other people negatively say things that are negative to you. But what about if, let's say, you're learning a new skill and you do actually feel that imposter syndrome? Let's say I got a client who is helping people with their like marketing funnels, right? And he's kind of getting into this game. He's not super well versed in it, but he's learning, you know what I mean? And the thing is, everybody starts from zero anyways. So when I started in sales, you think I knew how to sell before I knew how to sell? No, I read books, I took online courses, I practiced, I got mentors, people helped me out, and eventually I got better at sales to the point where I can teach sales. So there's no shame in starting from zero. And you're not saying that you're the guru that knows everything. You can be like, hey, like, this is where I'm at in my journey. I'm trying my best. I'm taking on a couple clients, let me know if you're interested. And, I'm going to do my best if you want to sign up. So it's like, if you take the approach of like, hey, this is my journey, I'm trying to become the best version of myself, nobody can hate on that. So that imposter syndrome goes away because you're not even faking anything. You are actually who you are, and you are, like, nobody can take that away from you. right? And like some of my clients, they'll do things like, let's say they have a tech sales job and they want to help other people find a high paying tech sales job too, but they may only have like less than 1 year of experience. So they're thinking, oh, like how can I be qualified to teach this if I've only been doing it for less than a year? Well, first of all, if you're already going to make like 6 figures on your job, you are qualified because you're one step ahead of the person you're helping. So if your, let's say, younger cousin was going to give you advice, are you going to say, oh, I can't give you advice because I have less than 1 year of experience? No, you're just going to help the person because you want to help the person. But in the client perspective, it's like, yeah, they're going to pay you thousands of dollars for the same information. So it doesn't mean the information is not valuable. It's just that your perceived like view of yourself is just so low, but it doesn't really match up with reality. So whatever you believe is going to be true. If you feel like you're underqualified, you will be underqualified. But if you feel like, you're on your journey and you're just figuring things out, but you know that with the knowledge that you have and the experience and the things that you've done, that you can help the next guy who maybe has zero experience, then yeah, you are providing value, right? So I would, highly encourage you guys that don't worry too much about what people think, because whatever negative things they say, you probably will not get canceled, And there are times where people, went out their way to try to say negative things about me in a coordinated effort, and it doesn't really work. Because yeah, maybe people talk about it for like a couple weeks or a month, but after that, nobody remembers and nobody cares. Like, very few people actually care about you. That's just reality. Actually, nobody's even thinking about you except yourself. So whatever it is you want to do in this life, just do it. You will attract the crowd that you want, that, based off the energy that you put out into the world, you will attract that your tribe. And even if you have haters, all around the globe saying negative things about you, your tribe will continue to support you as long as you continue to support them and you build that ecosystem. And so what the naysayers, it literally does not matter anymore because of, over time, how strong you will build your community. So I hope that, this story kind of inspires you and show you that this life is possible. And it doesn't really take that much. I'm definitely making more than $4,000 a month now, but like, back in the day, that's all it really took for me to be happy. And I would say, like, after you make 8K, $8,000 plus, money doesn't really like solve your happiness problems. It solves your money problems. You can do more things. You have more ability to travel, but it isn't going to make you happier, right? So, but having the freedom to do what you want when you want, that is priceless. So I highly encourage you guys to, consider that for yourselves. Give the whole personal branding thing a try. Like, more than ever, like, this is the opportunity, right? And if you want more tips on this and you want to if you like more of this style of video content where honestly I'm just freestyling, I don't even know what I'm saying, well, I do know what I'm saying, but it's just, there's no script, I'm just talking. And if you enjoy it, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and would love to do more of these every now and then when I can. That's pretty much it. Peace out.